and redo it. Charisma is what we're talking about today. And I'm going to talk to you about how we can amplify our charisma. I know a lot of you are already very charismatic, but we can always amplify that. And I'm learning new fun things too, which is awesome. So a little agenda for you so you know what to expect. We're talking a little bit about that connection question about, can I do my poll? And I don't know if I can do my poll. Yes, I can. Yay. I have a poll for you about babies. I know you're interested to see what that's going to be like. We're going to do a little mirroring activity. It's just going to be like a 6-minute break. So for those of you who are not with your teams, we'll have a 6-minute break. So you can do whatever you need, refill your coffee, sing a song, do a dance. That always wakes my brain up a little bit too. So we'll wake your brain up, and thank you for getting up early to hang out with me. And again, we're going to record this. So if you need to go back and look at it later, or if you're tuning in later, awesome. I love it. We're going to talk about brain science and mirroring. I love talking about mirroring. We had an introduction to mirroring last time when we talked about body language. So we'll get into a little bit of brain science with that because I love science. You're welcome. Our brand connection is real, not perfect. So that is charismatic people. Charismatic people are real. They embrace their flaws, and we're going to watch a little video from Vanessa about that. I'm going to teach you how to remember names and how to spark fun conversation, not just boring, oh, how are you? I'm fine. We'll talk about that. So here's the first poll. I'm going to launch it. 6-month-old infants prefer adults who imitate them, make silly faces, have blonde hair, or smell good. What do you think? I need to find a way to put a little Jeopardy music in here. Do, 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 do. What do you think? 6-month-old infants, what do you think they prefer? People who imitate them? People who make silly faces? People who have blonde hair? And people who smell good? There's actually some fun science about what babies think about people with different hair color. It's interesting. So I'll give you a couple more seconds to throw something up. Looks like 83% of you have already voted. Do a couple more minutes for you to say what you think. What do you think it is? We're talking about mirroring. Okay. We're going to share the results. So most of you were correct. It is imitate them. And this is across the board, across cultures. That's a really fun thing when we talk about charisma and we talk about these things that are actually science-based. It doesn't matter what culture you're from, what country you're in. Babies of all races and cultures do the same thing. So it's really fun to study infants. And even blind babies make the same micro-expressions. I talk about that a little bit later too, but most of you were right. 6-month-old infants prefer adults who imitate them. So that's that mirror neuron that goes off in our minds. There was a little story in the last one about Marquet monkeys and how researchers, when the researcher would reach for a sandwich or some food, the monkey's brain would light up like he was reaching for the food. So people like us more if they think we are like them. So mirroring is a really cool tool. And there's lots of fun science behind it too. So get up, get out of your chair. I wish I could get out of my chair. But then you'll just see my torso, and that's no good. So last month we introduced a mirroring activity of just practicing, like sitting with someone and actually mirroring very closely all of their movements. So we're going to do something similar, but not the same. So this is a really fun activity to help you get up and move. And you can practice when you meet with your teams as well, or practice with a partner, or do it in the mirror, or whatever. So find a partner, assign one person to be the leader and one person to be the follower. And we always switch roles, so everyone gets to do both roles. We like that. The leader, you're going to tell your follower a story about the best concert you ever went to. And I want you to use as much expressive hand gestures as you can, positive hand gestures, for 2 minutes. Short story, give us the Reader's Digest version. Follower, I want you to mirror with small body movements. So not big ones and mirroring exact like we did last time. But practicing the body language, align your torso and practice deep gazing, but don't make it weird. Same with the hand gestures. We want to avoid like doing jazz hands all the time when we talk, hey, hey, but very small hand gestures. Practice that deep gazing. Don't make it weird, just a little bit of gazing. And focus on actively listening and mirroring positively. So if you are watching this later, you can pause the video now and do this activity. It's super fun. It takes about 6 minutes. So you're going to do 2 minutes each for your concert story, and your follower is going to practice kind of mirroring your positive body language. And like I had mentioned before, you know, maybe if they're doing this, do this, or if they have a hand on a hip, put your hand on your hip. Just very small, kind of subtle ways to mirror someone while they're telling a story. And then switch. So each one of you gets to be the follower, and each one of you gets to do that. So I'm going to pause for 6 minutes. We do that. Go ahead and come on back now if you're not back already from your activity. And if you didn't have enough time, you can do it later or do it after this. Talk about I love to do that as a connection question, like what was the best concert you ever went to? It's really fun to see what people's answers are. Mine are all like angry rock and roll shows from being a teenager, so that's fun. So, like I said before, this is for your brain. You're welcome. Brain science is amazing. The more you exercise your brain, the longer you live, the more things you can remember, like people's names. And of course, you're way more productive during the day. So again, good job for getting up early to wake up your brain. You're going to be really productive today because your brain's already going to be kind of lit up from doing this. If you could see the inside of your brain during that mirroring activity, it would be so awesome because you would just see things like firing off and lighting up. This is Brian, the guy. We're looking at Brian's brain right now. That's what's happening, Sarah, just so you know. You may have heard that the brain has a pleasure center that lets us know when something is enjoyable and reinforces the desire for us to perform the same pleasurable action again. This is also called the reward circuit, which includes all kinds of pleasure, from sex to laughter to certain types of drug use. I actually always remember dopamine as the reward neurotransmitter because it sounds like dope, and drugs also fire off that same thing. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad, okay, but that's how I remember it. Yeah, so also drugs, sex, laughter. Some of the brain areas impacted by pleasure include the amygdala, which you can see here. And there's also the ventral tegmental area, which actually releases the dopamine. So here's just like a cool visual for you about the brain and what all of those other functions are. So looking at that, you just lit up your brain a little bit. Good job. We're always connecting back to our company pillars. So this is one that's been around forever and ever. It's old, it's new, it'll always be a part of us. We are real, we are not perfect. And being perfect actually makes you a lot less likable when we learn about the science here. And Vanessa's going to talk about that in the video here in just a little bit. But just going back to that, always reiterating that we seek to create the kind of connections that happen in spontaneous, real life moments. We're not about impressive table settings. We're not about robotic memorization of facts about wine, manicured vineyard vistas. We're about drinking wine out of jelly jars with our friends, actually connecting with the people in front of us so that we can offer them something we know that they're going to enjoy. That's it. We want to learn about the person in front of us, figure out what your taste is, make your mouth happy, get you to join Club of Oak. And if you're a very charismatic and memorable person, that's really easy. And then it doesn't feel like sales because no one wants to feel like a salesperson. That's not fun. Vanessa Van Edwards also even says, charisma does not equal perfection. So that goes right along with this brand pillar of ours. Charismatic people are highly likable. Likability is the greatest predictor of popularity and social acceptance in a group for adults. More important, read that, more important than wealth, status, or physical attractiveness. This is all based on science. It's so funny too, because you think about, I always think about Adam Sandler, right? So Adam Sandler is like the folkliest dude, I think, I've ever seen, right? And he has all these like pretty ladies. So it's all about him being very charismatic. Has nothing to do, well, he's obviously very wealthy now, but back in the day he wasn't. So that physical attractiveness, the status, the wealth, it actually doesn't necessarily make you a likable, charismatic person. And the more liked you are, the more likely you are to keep your job. That comes straight from the Australia Journal of Psychology. So we have all these really cool, fun studies that are telling us about new things that we never thought about before. The cool thing is anyone can learn how to be highly charismatic. It doesn't matter if you are extroverted, ambiverted, introverted. We talked about those different personality types. It actually makes you stand out more when you're not that perfect, we're all after this like perfect supermodel thing sometimes, but that actually does not make you really a memorable person. There's a lot of comedians I know that are kind of like just interesting or like funny looking ladies, and they're way more memorable than someone who looks perfect. So here's the breakdown. Why are we doing this? Why do we want to do this? People buy things from people they like and trust. That's been proved over and over and over again with science and lots of fun studies. And if you want to look at any of those, I love to geek out on it. So let me know. Love to share that with you. But that's money, honey. You like money. Charismatic people make a great first impression. You will be remembered. I don't know about you, but I want to be remembered. Charismatic people bring people together. So that connection, that's me, the captain of connection. Love that oxytocin. Love to help get other people to feel that connected to something. In this world where there's so many things out there for us as consumers, but a lot of them don't really try to connect with us on the level that we're trying to connect with people. So we're doing something really cool. Charismatic people are memorable and likable. So there's that trust and rapport, which is the serotonin we talked about. Serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. That is your scientific neurotransmitter cocktail for the perfect experience with somebody. So I'll talk about those things a lot. Charismatic people are great at sparking interesting conversation. Stop being boring. There's that dopamine. That equals dopamine. If you ask somebody, what's been the best part of your day so far? Instead of just, oh, how are you? Then you will actually get a little dopamine rush and wake them up a little bit from that normal script and routine. And advance your communication skills. Life is so much easier in your personal life, in your job, if you have good communication skills and if you understand about the person in front of you. A few things about the person in front of you. Look at Vanessa, she's so cute. I'm gonna just leave this here for a second. You deserve to be remembered, acknowledged, and taken seriously. And if you watch these and you learn with me, come with me, learn with me, this is it. You will be remembered, acknowledged, and taken seriously. I figured out how to do this so that you can actually see it. It's gonna be wonderful. We're gonna hear from Vanessa.
The old versus new way to launch your online course. So the first thing I want you to know.
Sarah, you better text me if you can't hear this, but I'm sure you can because I fixed it this morning.
Okay, let me say that again. Your launch is not personal. It's
We welcome back the author of Human Line Detection and Body Language 101, Vanessa Van Edwards. I think that intro was one of the most charismatic I've ever given.
definitely.
What we're trying to say here is there are some people who just seem to have that thing. When they're in a room or they're talking or they're amongst people, they have something. What is that?
So that question always fascinated me. So we run a human behavior research lab, and I was like, I want to study this. What makes people so memorable? So we actually found patterns between people who are really memorable and have that quality that's you instantly want to know them, and people who are more forgettable. So
I tend to think I've met a lot of different business people, and you meet the heads of companies, and they all seem to have most of them seem to have that same it factor that big celebrities have. There's a star quality.
Yeah, absolutely, and
Draws people to them.
definitely, and that is learnable. That's what I'm hoping we can talk about today.
Really?
That you can learn it, absolutely. You can increase it. So the first thing is there's a myth I want to bust, and it's that we think that charismatic people are perfect. They're more attractive, they're smarter, they're better than. That is absolutely not the case. And so the first habit that charismatic people do is they embrace their imperfections. So this was done with a study by psychologist Richard Wiseman, and he wanted to see, could vulnerability really make you more likable? So he had two actresses sell a blender in a mall. One actress had the perfect pitch. The other actress had the same pitch, but she spilled the smoothie from the blender all over the table. So the question is, who sold more blenders? Surprisingly, it was actress number 2, the one who spilled the smoothie.
Funny.
And not only that, but everyone in the audience rated her as more likable.
Because we can relate to her, because we're imperfect and, okay.
Exactly. So when you're out, I don't want you to worry about being smarter or better than. What I want you to do is, if you're feeling uncomfortable, if you're feeling nervous, that actually bonds you to people. You can use those imperfections to connect with people.
I would imagine there's a balance to that, though. If you're constantly self-deprecating and you're constantly pointing out your own failings, after a while, you're just annoying.
Yes, and that brings me perfectly, exactly. And that brings me perfectly to point number 2, which is don't be a conversational narcissist. Because annoying people.
They kill the meat factor.
No, they kill it. So what we found is that charismatic people have this skill. They have a mentality shift. When they go into interactions with people, all they focus on is how can they ask the most interesting questions, which is very different. They don't think about what they're going to say or how they're going to talk about themselves. They figure out, how can I get this person to tell me their story? So I challenge you, next time you go to a big event or a party, think about how can you get the person you're speaking with to tell you their story? What questions can you ask that are just going to pry out their most interesting aspects of themselves?
Well, it's not going to be, what do you do?
Right. It's not what you do. It's going to be, what are your personal passion projects?
Right.
It's going to be, what was the most exciting thing that happened to you today?
Here's what somebody asked once in a group I was in: who's the most interesting person you ever met?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's actually what we did in our study. Is we asked people, who is the most charismatic person you know? And then we started to look for patterns in those charismatic people. So I love that. And you can even say, I watched this awesome segment on AM Northwest on charismatic people. Who do you know who's charismatic? What do you think makes someone charismatic? So once you start asking these questions, it's very important. This is habit number 3, is to gush, don't gossip. So the old saying that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should be listening
more, right?
Listening more than we're speaking. And what's important about this is something called the spontaneous trait transference. Forgive me for this scientific term. What this is they found that when you speak ill of someone, people cannot help but associate those negative traits to you as well as the person you're talking about. We cannot help it. So for example, if I were to say, ugh, she's so mean, I don't like her, she's awful. Mean and awful actually stick to me just as much as her.
Really?
Yes.
Is that true? Is that true even if the people who are listening don't know the other person?
Even then.
Even if they know or don't know.
No or don't know. If
Interesting.
you mention those adjectives, people just cannot help but associate that to you. So what you're better off doing is find genuine ways to gush about people. And it has to be genuine. So I did this just the other night. My friend Carrie came up. I was talking to a group of people. I said, oh, this is my friend Carrie. She's a fierce, feisty female entrepreneur. Everything she does is pretty awesome. Because I genuinely love Carrie, so I was able to introduce her. So when someone comes to a group and you're introducing someone, take that opportunity to genuinely gush about them. That's a great way to
You
show.
know, my uncle is like that, and he's fairly charismatic, but he always sees the positive in some people, and it's amazing. And it's never negative first. It's always something nice.
And that it translates onto him. It's like a halo effect.
Yeah, interesting.
So I have 2 last body language tips.
Okay.
You know, I love talking about body language. So the first one is showing your hands. Our hands are our trust indicators. Women are often taught to put their hands underneath the table in their lap. That's polite. Actually, you're much better off keeping them above the table, because studies show that when someone can see your hands, they rate you as more trustworthy, which is exactly what charismatic people do.
And use your hands when you're talking?
Use your hands when you're talking, and no jab hands.
Okay.
No jab hands.
But
Keeping them visible. Don't tuck them into your purse. Don't put them behind your back when you're talking. As much as possible, keeping them
crossing your arms,
No, not allowed.
so keep them out, keep them
out and visible.
together.
And what about looking into someone's eyes?
That's my last tip, and that's the most important. Eye contact is great. That's half the story. I want you to try deep gazing. That's noticing someone's eye color. And the reason for that is because they found that when you do that, it releases.
This doesn't get creepy.
It's a little bit creepy, but just briefly, Dave. Briefly.
Okay.
Remember, no extremes.
Got it. All
Yeah,
right.
just a little bit of deep gazing, and that builds that connection.
Keep eye contact. That's important.
Eye contact, and don't overhead gaze to see who's better to talk to.
Yeah, that's a hard break. All right, very good. Human Lie Detection Body Language 101 is the book, and thank you so much. Always fun.
Thank you.
So Sarah just texted me and said that the video ended up being a little choppy. It was fine on my end, but if it was a little choppy or you could at least hear it, sometimes I have to just listen to things if they're like that, because when the mouth and the words don't line up, it's very confusing and hard to pay attention to. So I will work on that next, but I will also send these videos and a link and a quiz and everything to you so that you can also watch it later. But I really love what she has to say about those 5 science-based tips on how to be more charismatic. So stop being boring. We're going to stop being boring. That's what makes us different is we are not your average winery. We are not boring. We actually care about the people in front of us. We care about each other too. And thanks for caring about professional development, because no one wants to just stay stagnant forever. So embrace your faults. There's that Be Real. She talks about embracing your faults, because people connect more with people who are real, who they think, oh, they go through the same things I do. She gave an example of a lady who two ladies that tried to sell a blender, and one of them did a perfect job and one of them spilled the smoothie, and the one that spilled the smoothie was rated more likable because people could relate to her a little bit more. People actually don't like that perfection box or whatever the media tries to tell us is perfect. Don't be a conversational narcissist. I always feel like that when I'm doing these things, because I'm just talking to, I don't get anything back from you until later. But I get to see you in real life soon, so I'm very excited about that. Gush, don't gossip. I love, love, love this. And I always will try to like look at a thesaurus to try to find more exciting words on like, how can we make a webinar exciting? Well, let's call it like a super skills class instead of a webinar, because webinar sounds lame. So always trying to introduce people to and just gush about people instead of gossip. And gush about our company. That's another fun thing, especially with guests. I love to gush about our company and the fact that we are such an amazing family. We've been through so much. We have amazing winemakers. We have an awesome marketing team. We have amazing warehouse production team. All of our tasting rooms are awesome. I love to gush about our company as well. And use your hands, of course. I talk about that a lot. I use my hands a lot. No jazz hands though, avoid that. So the things I talk about are always like, we're not ever taking them to the extreme. It's a very subtle thing when we're talking about this. And gaze deeply and briefly. Not making that like super weird whole eye contact the whole time, but just gazing for engagement. I have a whole other thing. My assistant managers and managers are going to take a how to train people, and there's a whole section I do about gazing for engagement. So if you want to learn a little bit about that, let me know. I've got tons of fun things to do now. And the other charismatic thing that charismatic people do is remember names and have killer conversations. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So I talk about this a lot, and people are always like, oh, you're so good at remembering names. And I'm like, well, I have a lot of tips and tricks. And when those tips and tricks don't work and I haven't seen somebody for a year, then I go to my coworker and I go, can you please introduce yourself to those people and let me know what their names are? I've known them for 8 years. I can't not like be like, oh, remind me what your name is again. So you can use your people too to help you remember names. And also another trick, you guys, if you have couples and they're members, put both of their names on the account. I want to see Beth and Brian Dillinger or whatever it is. If it just says Beth Dillinger and Brian is with her all the time, I'm never going to remember Brian's name and I'm going to feel bad. So it helps you, it helps me, it helps everybody if you put those names on there. I'll even put flags or little notes on people's accounts that say like, daughter is Vivian, just had a baby named Luca. We have a member who has a kid named Thor. Like that's super cool. So if you can find that note on an account sometime, tell them I said hi. And Thor's probably older now, but here's some little tips for you. And there's also a link to a video at the bottom of this if you guys want to watch it later in your groups. So the more tips link at the bottom is actually Vanessa's little video about how to remember names, and I put it in the link too. But just real quickly, we'll go through some of these things that are really easy. So the meet and repeat. Very easy, but sometimes we don't do it. Someone says, oh, hello, my name is Kristen. And you say, Kristen, it's so nice to meet you. Or you say, Bob, it's so nice to meet you. Hearing someone's name in your own voice makes a difference. I also like to kind of spell their name out in my head. It's another little fun mnemonic device. Or write it down. When it gets really busy and I'm at the end of my day, I'll get a little notepad and just write down real quick. Okay, Sarah, Kelly, Ann, and Jessica. Like I want to remember all of these names, especially when you have bachelorette parties or something like that. When I'm carding people too, when you're carding people, look at their names and then give it back to them. Like, oh, I see that you're from Oregon, Billy. Welcome. Saying it, repeating it, that's going to help you remember. Spelling it out in your head. So I'm going to think B-I-L-L-Y when I meet Billy, right in my head, like a little, like a cartoon across the top of my brain will say Billy. And then visualizing that will help you remember. And then associate and anchor is one of my favorites. I actually just made a little video for training new people, for new hires. So Robert, maybe you have seen this or you will see it eventually. But it's all about tying that person to other people with the same name. So the associate and anchor. So if I meet someone named Stephanie, I'm going to put Stephanie at like a little round table in my head with other people I know named Stephanie. So all the Stephanies are kind of organized in my mind at the same table. And all the Bobs are organized in my mind at the same table. A lot of them are like older gentlemen that have dirty jokes. Those are the Bobs. It's really funny. But they all sit at a table in my head. And if you can't think of someone that has that name, like it's Annika or something crazy, think of like a celebrity that would help you remember. And then put that person at a little table in your head with that celebrity. Or maybe they're having lunch with that celebrity. You have a Justin, maybe you think about him hanging out with Justin Bieber at a table in your mind. So the more you practice these things, the more they just come naturally. Once you start doing it, it'll just come naturally. The more you say somebody's name, you will remember it. So remembering people's names is really important. And there's a lot more tips and tricks from Vanessa. She's in her Wonder Woman outfit here because remembering people's names is actually a superpower. It is the smallest thing that nobody ever does. Even the little guy that checks me out at Safeway or the little lady, just the fact that they look at your credit card and they go, oh, have a nice day, Miss Kais. We love to hear our names. There's some cool brain science about that too. Hearing your own name will actually get you to spark your brain and light it up. That's what we're trying to do. So let's talk about that. So once we've remembered the names, we're making a good first impression. We're using our body language to be really positive. We're gazing deeply. We're remembering those 5 habits to be charismatic. Then we get to have conversations. Some conversations are long, some conversations are short, but they should be exciting and memorable is what they should be. So most conversations go something like this. What do you do? Oh, that's nice. Where are you from? Never been there. So what brings you here? Good. Well, I'm gonna go grab your tasting now. Like that's that robotic part that we don't want to be. Don't be robotic. It's super boring. That's the equivalent of sitting on a kiddie ride at Disneyland when you could be on Space Mountain. Like that's way better. I would rather be on Space Mountain. Some people don't want to be on Space Mountain, like you love the kiddie ride, that's fine. But your conversations should be like Space Mountain. You don't want things to just come to this no sparks or highs and just a slow roll to an anticlimactic ending. We have a wine called Climax. Let's make sure that our conversations hit a climax at some point. That's important. If you can level up your conversation game, you will create real connections and actually give your guests a little dopamine kick that will wake them up and help them get excited about you and what you're saying. And if they're excited about you and what you're saying, then they buy wine and sign up for clubs. So we'll go. I made a video. I made like my first video for training. So please give me some feedback on it. We'll try the link now and we'll go through it. And if it's choppy, bear with me and I'll send out the link as well and we'll figure out how to make this not so choppy in the end. And it's going to be.
What's up, crew?
Oh, there I am.
Thanks for tuning into Connection TV. I'm your host and captain of Connection, Shelly Kite. And I'm here today talking to you a little bit about conversation sparking because we want to have memorable experiences and make memories with people. And if the conversation sucks, then we're not going to make memories with people. So not just open-ended questions, but real conversation sparkers. So that you're not bored at work and people in front of you aren't bored and you're actually making those connections with people. So I've been doing this for a little while. 15 years now, I think it's 2021. So I've done a lot of experimenting with people, and some of my favorite conversation sparkers I'm going to share with you today, just the super basics, so my top 10, and I'm going to list them in alphabetical order because that is how my brain likes to organize it for some reason. So your captain of connections, top 10 in alphabetical order, conversation sparkers. So we're going to start with the letter A. The letter A is for above average greeting. We are not your average winery, and we want to take everything that everybody else does and just like level it up a little bit. So in everything that we do, even our greeting with people. So it's perfectly fine for you to say, hey, totally fine. You can do that. Or you can think of ways to have a little more fun with it and level it up a little bit. I've been saying to people, because we have the mask thing going on right now, I've been saying, hey, welcome. Make yourself at home. Everything that's open is clean right now. And as long as you're seated, you don't have to have the mask on. I look forward to seeing the rest of your face. That's it. Just like a little tweak on something that is going to wake people's brains up a little bit more than just that regular, how are you doing? That's the other one. That's mine. That's boring. I'm trying really hard not to just ask people, how are you doing? Because what it's like, your brain just goes into the thing where it's like, oh, I'm fine. How are you? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? Like, even if you're not fine, like if the world's falling apart around you, if somebody asks you, how are you doing? You're going to go, I'm okay. I'm fine. Which is a total lie. It's super lame. So I like to ask people things like, what's good? What's the best part of your day so far? Tell me something exciting that you're working on. So level up those and have an above average greeting for people, or above average things to say in the beginning of your experience. Someone will spark a connection and a conversation right away. So A is for above average, always be above average. The letter B stands for birthdays. So birthdays, anniversaries, celebrations in general. If we're not finding out what people are celebrating, we're really missing the ball on being able to connect with them and make their experience really memorable. The worst thing is to hear at the end of someone's experience with you, oh, it's our anniversary today. Like, you have to tell me that in the beginning so we can celebrate. It's a great time to bring in a little surprise and delight into the mix as well. I like to pour a little sparkling if you have it open for people who are celebrating their anniversaries. And if you only have a few people on a tasting room, pour it for everyone. Do a big toast. Happy 40th anniversary, Dan and Jane. We actually have a Dan and Jane. That's probably what that came to me. Birthdays, anniversaries, B stands for those kinds of celebrations. That brings us to the letter C. So C is for cocktails and coffee. So this is a conversation sparker I like to use when I have someone that's brand new to drinking wine in front of me that may not necessarily know what kind of wine they like or what their flavor is yet. But if they tell me what kind of cocktail and what kind of coffee they like, I can start to figure out what their taste is like so I can make their mouth happy. That's what it's all about, right? So if I've got a blonde bombshell in front of me that's a lemon drop drinker, it's going to be all about wild and free Pinot Gris, making waves Albarino, and hopefully a little frisky sparkling if it's open. Or if I have on the other spectrum, like a gorgeous brunette in front of me that's like a whiskey drinker, outdoorsy, awesome chick, I'm going to give her orgasmic Cabernet, and I bet you that she likes her coffee black. So it's all about figuring out what kind of taste people have so we can make their mouth happy with something else. So C is for coffee and cocktail. D, cannot forget the letter D. D is so important. D is for destination. So where have you been on vacation lately? Do you have any cool vacations coming up? Where would you go if you could go on vacation right now? So many cool conversation sparkers around destination that you can bring up. So that's a really fun one. And then we get to go to E, which is also part of that taking people to their happy place, is escapism. E stands for escapism. So just another really fun little conversation sparker I like to use is, where do you picture yourself when you drink this wine? Is it an outdoor wine? Are you climbing Mount Hood with a rock climbing crew and you're camping and you're drinking out of a plastic cup, so just passing the bottle around? Or are you drinking out of a crystal goblet on a bearskin rug in front of a fireplace in the woods? These all would be like happy places for me, except the rock climbing part, but I would definitely bring the wine or the whiskey. So E is for escapism. Help people find their happy place. Where do you picture yourself when you drink this wine? F is the next letter in the alphabet. F is for flavor. So another thing that we want to ask people is, what kind of wine do you drink at home? What do you like? What's your go-to? That's also another question that we need to ask people so that we can invite them to join the club that's right for them. We need to know what kind of category they fall into. Is it mix? Do you like whites and reds? Do you like all reds? Do you just a sweet drinker? You don't even know what you like. We're going to figure some stuff out about you and experiment. So flavor is really important to get to know what people's flavor is, what kind of wines you like to drink. at home? What's your go-to? Even if it's something out of the box, I don't care. Share it with me. That's great. We're equal opportunity drinkers all around. So S is for flavor. G is one of my favorites. G is for genuine compliments. So I have a whole other training and a video for you about how to give and receive genuine compliments. You can't just say to everyone that walks in the door, "Oh, I like your earrings. Oh, I like your earrings today. I really like your earrings today." It becomes very disgenuine and you start sounding robotic. The more you say the same thing over and over again, your brain gets tired of it and you don't sound as excited when you talk about it anymore. So you really have to think about it. So genuine compliments are really important, and you can spark all kinds of conversations around them. I love to use what people are wearing. Do they have a Blazer hat or a Ducks jersey on? Like, go Ducks or go Blazers, or go whoever it is that you like in the sports balls world. Like, you can spark a conversation about that. Or if you really do love somebody's earrings, that's a great one. I have a little mini side story for you about that. So I was doing a teaching at a hotel, in a hotel lobby, just like me and my little table, like, who's thirsty, who's ready to get naked, because we're called naked wine at the time. And this lady walked in and she was just like, she had just flown in off a $1 million yacht, and she was like tan and blonde and like just absolutely stunning. She had these gorgeous fire opal turtle earrings on, and I had just gotten back from spending some time in Maui for my birthday. So I was just drawn to her, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love your earrings. I just got back from Maui, blah, blah, blah." And she was like, "Oh girl, I have a house in Maui, blah, blah, blah. I just got back there from there as well." And this lady was just checking into her hotel. She wasn't even thinking about wine. I signed her up a club, but we connected right away. I didn't even have to find her whole life story. We didn't even have like a beginning and middle end of our experience. I just sparked a conversation based on something, gave her a genuine compliment. She still remember, her name's Deborah. She loves red wine, and so do I. We bonded over that as well. So that's it. It's super easy. Give genuine compliments and spark a conversation around all kinds of things that go with that. For the letter G. H is the next letter. So H stands for home. This is another question that you need to figure out if you're going to offer somebody the right kind of club membership. So where is home for you is very important. Not where you're from, but where is home for you? Where do you live now? Where's that place that makes you really happy right now? And sometimes it's okay to get people back to their happy place talking about their home as well. And if it's somewhere you've never been, be curious about it. I've never been to Florida. What's the coolest part about your town in Florida? I want to know all about it. And then I'm going to offer you like shipping benefits and, they don't have this kind of wine in Florida, and you should join the club for those reasons. Or if it's a local person, then it's, all the local benefits, blah, blah, blah. So where is home for you? It's a very important thing that you should be at. Anyway, and it's a great way to spark a conversation. So I is the next one. So I stands for imagination, because I want you to use yours. I want you to be curious about people, and I want you to spark meaningful conversations and connections that are going to wake your brain up too and help you have an awesome day at work, because no one wants to just be boring. Spice up the conversations in your own life for that matter. I'm going to give you these skills for work, but I have some bonus tips for your actual life for you as well. So stay tuned for some of those things. So please use your imagination. That's for I. The last one is J. So number 10, my final conversation sparker is joy. I want to see pictures of your dog. I want to see pictures of your baby. I want to see pictures of your trip to Greece. I want to see it all. I want to get you talking about what brings you joy. So joy is my last conversation sparker for you. And please use any of these and use your imagination as well and come up with them on your own. So before I leave you, I have 2 pro tips for you, because conversation sparking will get you into 2 situations. Either the people in front of you are not giving you enough information, or you're trying to spark a conversation, maybe it's not really like coming out of them quite yet, or they haven't come out of their shell, maybe they're a little more introverted. You can do this really cool thing. It doesn't take any words at all. You just nod your head 3 times. Like, yeah, tell me more about that. And the person will start telling you more. I've experimented with it. It's super fun. Not fast. Don't do it fast. That's like, yeah, hurry up already. I'm done. Here you go. Don't do that. Just a very like, I'm curious. Oh. And 3 is a magic number for some reason. So 3 times to nod your head. Now, the other thing that happens is you've got someone who is just very long-winded and they won't shut up. And you have people like, you did a way too good job of sparking the conversation and now you need to leave the situation. You've got people coming in the door, your coworker just showed up for work and they're not on the floor yet. Give me some time, right? I'll be right with you. So I'm going to show you how to get out of conversations too, and you can use this in your regular life too. You're welcome. So we're going to start with body language because I'm all about body language. I'm going to disalign my torso with you. So remember we talked about open torso facing you. That means I'm giving you my attention. I'm engaged with you. I want to connect with you. Hey, don't want to block that off or close that off. So here we go. Disalign my torso with you. I'm going to put my hand up just like this a little bit. I like this. I like this. A little bit. So the universal sign for stop. We'll talk about that later. So just very little bit right here. And then I'm going to put one foot like I have one foot out the door. I know you can't see my feet, but you can picture I've got one foot kind of leaning towards this way, like I'm ready to go. But I'm going to acknowledge it and make it feel good. And I'm going to say, oh my gosh, Bob, hold that thought. I really want to know all about this fish that you caught in the Columbia. Find some pictures on your phone. I got to help these people, and I got to grab your wine, and I'll be right back. And then you did. Don't give them a chance to respond. Go. You said it nicely. Please. That's it. Oh, I really want to hear about that. But I've got some thirsty people over here. Oh my gosh. These people look like they're ready to make some memories, and I'll be right back. I got to grab them some wine. So acknowledging, but we're out of here. We're disaligned. We have one foot out the door. We've got our little hand up. It's like, I really want to pay attention to you, but I want to give you all my attention. So give me a minute, and I'll be right back. So those are my 2 pro tips for getting a little more conversation out of somebody and shutting down the conversation when you have work to do. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you watch some more of my pro tips, and that it helps you in your daily life, in your teaching rooms, or in the office, or the warehouse, or wherever it is that you're at. Conversation sparking is a great way to keep things exciting and stop being boring. So I encourage you to connect and go out there and experiment with people.
No, I'm back over here. I realized that was a little weird to see me in a little box with me. I hope you liked that. Oh, shut up. We don't want to hear from you, sir. So that was my first little conversation sparker video for you. I hope you enjoyed it. It was just the basics. I have lots of other fun conversation sparkers, and I love to hear yours as well. Go ahead and throw some, if you have some other fun conversation sparking ideas, throw them up in the chat box. It's about 9:49. So I'm going to do the summary and then I'll explain the last activity. And you can do the last activity together or wait and do it in your teams or grab a friend and experiment with a friend. We have a sparkle activity. I'll get back to that at the end actually, so we can wrap this up because we actually got the videos to work. And Sarah said that last one was a little bit better. So I hope that we can figure out how to get all the audio and video and stuff looking really great so it's engaging and not terrible. So the summary for today, we talked about being charismatic. Mirroring others in small ways is a gateway to get them to like you, trust you, and spend money. So remember that mirroring. Remember that it's important to turn your brain on and turn other people's brains on, and people like people who are like them. So mirroring in subtle ways is great. Charismatic people are real, not perfect. Embrace your flaws, own it. Doesn't matter what happens if you own it. It doesn't mean like go spill wine all over the counter and people will like you. Like don't do that. But if something happens, embrace that. Embrace the flaws. That's like if sometimes I'll say the wrong thing or I'll trip over my words in a video and you just kind of just go right through it and ignore that it happened. And I don't edit it out because I'm real. I'm not perfect. It usually is not the first version of the video that you get to see from me, but I leave some of those things in there. Your pathway to being more charismatic, here it is. 5 habits to stop being boring. So remember all those things that Vanessa said or go back and watch the video later. Gazing for engagement, all of those fun things. Remembering names and sparking conversations. There's also a charisma quiz. I sent it out in the last email reminder if you're curious to see how charismatic you are. Currently, there's a quiz link for that, which is kind of fun. Sarah already took it. Sarah, maybe you can share your results with the people. Here's the quiz. I'm going to send this out also if you are in. So here's the deal. If you're with your team watching this class, you can do the quiz together as a group. I'm cool with that. If you did it as a group, you don't have to turn in a quiz. That's fine. If you're doing it later and you are unable to meet with your team, I'll send the quiz out and it will be due. And I'm going to give you 2 weeks. And it's like 5 questions. And if you watch the webinar, I give you all the answers anyway. So it's just reiterating to keep it fresh in your mind. But name one of Vanessa's 5 habits. We looked at those. Name one of Shelly's top 10 Convo sparkers. What is the brand connection for this training? Which it connects with all the pieces of our brand, because being charismatic is just what we're about. Our labels are charismatic, our speak is charismatic, our people are charismatic. Love it. And you can level up your charisma just because you take the quiz. That's the other thing with these. Personal development is very personal. There's no right or wrong answers with these personal development things. So if you get the charisma quiz and it says you need to increase your likability, or you need to, decrease your competence, or whatever it says on there, it's not a bad thing. It's just to let you know where you're at so that you can be more likable or work on those skills a little bit more. I work on my skills still. I'm never going to be perfect. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. So don't get discouraged if you rate a certain way on any of my quizzes. It really doesn't matter. It's just about learning about ourselves. So please keep that in mind. And then what is a good way to remember someone's names? I gave you some tips and tricks. And if you get bonus points if you can email me a tip or a trick that you use that is not in this webinar. So bonus points if you can do that. So the last activity, and I'll let you just turn me off so you can do this activity as a group, or do it later if you're watching this video later. Your brain will thank you for doing these things, even if they seem kind of silly or it's a little awkward at first. Just do it. It also helps bond you to the people you're doing it with, because you're going through this kind of fun little people experiment. So coming up with real conversation sparkers. We used to talk about open-ended questions. And an open-ended question is just like a question you can't answer with a yes or a no. That's lame. That's actually really lame. We don't want just open-ended questions. We want something that's going to spark an actual conversation. And it can happen really fast. In the past, we've talked about having like a beginning and a middle and an end with somebody. But when you're really busy, sometimes you only get a few minutes with them to spark a little bit of a conversation. And it happens really fast. So I use this example. When I was in the Seaside Tasting Room, and this couple walked in and they were super cute, and he was wearing a hat that said Halloween is every day. And as soon as they walked in the door, I was like, yes, Halloween is every day. I love Halloween. Like, check out my skulls, check out my things. That's me. And then we connected on that right away. The couple was from Portland. They sat down, celebrating their anniversary. I gave them some champagne right away. We talked about my favorite places in Portland. Like, I didn't have a beginning, middle, or an end with these people. It was a very quick interaction. Same with the example that I gave about the lady with the turtle earring. You can spark a conversation and connect with someone right away. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out beginning and middle and end. Sometimes the beginning, middle, and end is just a couple of interactions with someone when it's really busy. So keep that in mind as well. So you're going to get together, split into groups of 2 or 3, depending. Or just have a partner. If you have an odd number, throw someone into another person's mix, whatever. Mix it up. I like to do this when we all get together. Hopefully we'll get to do that someday soon. Each group must come up with 3 sparkers that they think will be memorable and spark an interesting conversation, an engaging conversation, something that's going to get people to say more to you than just, oh yeah, or oh no, something less lame. We're going to give each sparker a 3-minute test and rank how you feel about the conversation on a scale of 1 to 5. So not only are you going to come up with these conversation sparkers, but I want you to actually use them together. So if your conversation sparker is, where do you picture yourself when you drink this wine? You're going to ask the person in front of you, where do you picture yourself when you drink this wine? And they're going to actually have the conversation. So test out the conversation sparkers you come up with, and then I want you to present to the group. So what your 3 conversation sparkers were, and which one you ranked the highest when you tested them out. So I want you to test out your conversation sparkers. Come up with 3 conversation sparkers, test them out, give each one just like a couple minutes. doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation. It shouldn't be a lengthy conversation because most of the time we don't have time to do that, right? We want to have a fun conversation that's very short. And then whatever conversation sparker was the best conversation came out of, that's what I want you to share with the group. This was our group, this was our sparker that has created the best conversation, and then share that with people so that we can have something new to say all the time. After doing this for a very long time, I can attest that, like I said before, if you say the same thing over and over and over again, you're gonna sound robotic. If you're like, oh, here's foreplay Chardonnay, a little foreplay goes a long way. Oh, hey, here's foreplay Chardonnay, a little foreplay goes a long way. Like, it's a cute thing that I'm saying, but it becomes robotic after a while, even cute things, if you don't switch it up and spark interesting new conversations and have lots of things in your tool belt to keep things exciting and keep people's brains activated. So have fun with this conversation sparker. And if you're not with a tasting room team, do it with a friend. Grab me. I love doing people experiments with people. Next time you're out at lunch with somebody, try a conversation sparker out. It will really help you connect with people. You'll be more memorable. You'll be more charismatic. Sparking a really good conversation is excellent. So that's it. Thank you so much for getting up, for taking the time to care about developing yourself, learning about your teams, being more charismatic and memorable, and actually offering people a new and fun experience than just what they normally do at wineries, which is pretty lame. So I'm really happy to work for a company where we're not boring, we're actually really super fun, and we love to connect with our people. So